Hello, and welcome to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Josh Ritchie, and I'm here with my co host, Jason LANKOW.
Hello.
Today, our guest is Cymone Wilder, who is a senior art director working on the Amazon Web Services brand. She's also an owner of her own studio, Cymone and Moose, where she's done some amazing lettering and design work for brands such as Upwork, HBO, New Belgium, Nickelodeon, and several others. Cymone, thanks for being here today. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So, Simone, can you give us a quick overview of what your day to day at Amazon looks like and what makes your role unique?
Yeah, so I work with the brand team, and Amazon itself, as many know, is its own unique beast. So my day to day probably doesn't look like every other senior art director's day to day, but we're out here just trying to kind of really build the brand back up. Obviously, AWS has been around for quite some time, but it hasn't been super design focused, and so that a lot of our team is pretty new, and so that's kind of our goal for the next few years is to put those pieces in place, build those pieces, make sure that our organization is equipped and ready to use those things. So at this point, we're working on illustration. We're working on getting a photo library together, data visualization, all of those things together, just so that we're giving our wider team as many tools as makes sense for their day to day. So for me, that's art directing on a couple things, that's designing here and there. Just a nice little mix of a really crazy day sometimes.
Yeah, I hear that. And you mentioned there are other senior art directors, and you mentioned your team. Can you give us a little window into what your team looks like and how you all operate together?
Yeah, our team is, I gotta say, one of the most stacked teams I've ever worked with. Everybody is like so talented. Every day I'm just like, I don't know how I'm working with you guys every day. You're all like, each person is an incredible designer in their own right, and what they bring is nice and unique. So we're pretty top heavy at the moment. A lot of art directors, just because we are just building some of these pieces at this point. But we have folks focused on brand foundation, essential type pieces. We obviously have our copy team and some of those other our program managers, all that good stuff, but we have a pretty healthy video team and motion team, and a lot of what we do kind of drives towards a few specific events, and so we have a pretty hefty design team that's dedicated just to events. So we're like half brand, half events, and we're all kind of hopefully working towards bringing those visually towards a common look and feel. So that's kind of what our team is built of at this moment. And I every day I'm just like, wow, this is these are some heavy hitters.
Yeah, sounds like you're at an awesome team. That's super cool. And then at Cymone and Moose, your studio, what types of projects and clients do you tend to work on? And is there a common thread? I know I touched on a couple of them, but I know there's a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started doing it, I was a young cat, and I was just trying to say yes to everything. So I was doing a lot of like brand stuff, just identity, brand, I mean, system type stuff for coffee shops and things like that. But I think now that I'm getting older and further in my career, I'm finding that my sweet spot is very specifically lettering, and so I'm tending to turn away from brand projects on the whole, and just what's that just like lettering piece. If that's a logo, cool. If that's something for a t-shirt, great. If it's something that goes on the title of a TV show, even better. So that's kind of my main focus. I tend to do a lot of stuff with TV shows, streaming services, political campaigns. I personally just really love to be kind of socially engaged, and just being involved in, I mean, activism is probably too strong of a word for drawing my little pictures, but just focusing on issues that I personally feel passionate about. I try to keep high on the priority list.
Yeah, that's super cool. Do you ever find yourself getting inquiries from people to work on campaigns or initiatives that you're like, this is not a good fit for me, and thanks, but no thanks?
I think it's pretty rare that that happens. It's usually just like folks who are wanting brand materials, and I'm just like, I would love to help you with specific pieces of that, and partner with somebody who can think about that more holistically. I think there's only really been a couple clients where I'm just like, you know what, I don't know if I totally agree with your politics or your
Hmm.
morals or things like that. But for the most part, I've been very lucky to um, be attracting clients that I just really want to work with.
Yeah, that's super cool. So you mentioned earlier that the work at Amazon itself can be a lot. I think in your words, kind of a crazy day here and there. You also have your studio uh, where you work with some amazing brands, doing some really cool work. How do you manage it all? It sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I probably have a different answer for this like every other year. It just kind of depends on the
Yeah.
mix. I feel pretty lucky that the leadership on our team at AWS is very um, I don't know, they're very watchful of our time and that balance, and they're very good about not asking too much more. I know you can work in an agency sometimes, and the culture can be not so lovely, and you want to put in the 80 hours a week type of thing. And I think they're really good about guarding our time and our peace for the most part. So I'm able to kind of do the 9 to 5 and feel confident when I shut my computer at the end of the day that the rest of the day is mine. And so I'll plug a couple hours in the evening, while I'm watching a TV show on the lettering stuff, and then maybe just do like a half day on the weekends. But I try not to do the burn the candle at both ends thing, because I have found in the past that I can only do that for a few months before I'm really really spent and burnt out. So I try
Hmm.
to keep that balance. Obviously, easier at certain times than it is at others, but that's kind of the sweet spot I think right now.
That's cool. Jay, you're on mute. We'll clean that up in post.
You do a lot of beautiful lettering work. I'm really curious to hear what some of your inspiration is on that, and kind of how you got started there.
So I think my like first inspiration ever, like thinking back to when I was taking design classes in college, I this is kind of dumb and corny and not sustainable, but I tried to like tie jazz into everything I was doing. So I think some of those old like Blue Note record covers, that was like my first inspiration. And so I'm always trying to figure out how can I bring that, not necessarily aesthetic at this point, but just that energy, that kind of vibe into the work, something that feels present and grounded in our space and our time today. So that tends to be like the driving force. But of course, I'm a dork for cool signs and stuff around town. A lot of the old brick walls that are falling apart and fading away. I'm really, I love some of those textures that you can find. Just really anything that feels like you can touch it and like be present with it is a thing that I'm always trying to like thread into my work.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a great source for inspiration, and yeah, a lot of it has that feel like you would see it like as a mural or on a billboard. So it's cool to
Yeah.
hear the story and background of that. So digging into some of the tougher stuff of the day to day, what's one of the biggest challenges you face in your position, and how do you navigate that?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face, and this is probably the case for a lot of other really big companies, is that there are just uh, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, which you get dealing with any client, even on smaller projects. But just how can we put these processes in place that allows for quick and clear, um, what's the word, approvals on things, getting quick and clear feedback, just because we are moving so quickly a lot of the times. And so having that confusion really at any point in the process just slows everything down. So I think we're definitely still in the beginning stages of that, just because there's turnaround occasionally, and we kind of have to reset that stuff, especially if those processes aren't documented. So, how can we, figure this process out, test it out, and then get it documented well so that if X person leaves, it doesn't all fall apart, the day that they turn in their gear. So I feel like that's kind of one of the bigger challenges, and just, I don't know, making sure that everybody's able to bring, their strengths to the table. We all, have, similar backgrounds in our careers, but what are those, personal pieces? What are those like personal skill sets that, folks can bring to the table and add in that, diverse perspective? I think that's something that hopefully will help us stand out amongst a lot of these other tech giants.
Yeah, that's a super common challenge, right? Just trying to get everything aligned. I know, so we know marketing's challenging, and everything you mentioned is, common in most companies. That's part of what's exciting, right? If we could call it exciting. Um, what's one of your favorite stories of a time where you took a big risk and it either just really paid off, or even if it flopped, you learned something that has proved really valuable to you?
Mm. So this is not necessarily project related, but I know when I took this job, I kind of was just like, I've never been a senior art director before. This is the first time I'm coming in, so I really kind of just have to fake it till you make it. And everywhere I go, I need to go confidently and just kind of really uh, stake, put my stake in the ground and really just I don't know, just be very authentic, but firm and some of that stuff. And I think I kind of came in guns blazing, like, oh, I'm gonna shape all the culture, and we're gonna make all this change, and we're gonna make everybody feel super included, and we're gonna get all this stuff done. And then I think I just slowly started to realize, like, there are 1.5 million people at this company. There's only so much I can do, and so I think I kind of had to take a step back and realize that this is like a marathon, not a sprint, and that I just need to work, amongst my team, my day-to-day contacts, and make sure that they're feeling included in their work, and then kind of, move out from there and make sure that our team is making other teams feel included in work, and just kind of allow it to be a ripple effect rather than, this big splash in the pond straight from the get-go. So, I think that's something that hopefully I can continue to discover and learn and figure out, like, what is the right speed to be going at as far as that goes. But yeah, I think I really came in guns blazing and then realized very quickly that it was like, I'm not going to change this entire company today.
That's an interesting kind of insight there, because you see with certain things, the tendency is, let's make a huge sweeping change across the entire organization. And then, spend months and months trying to get it perfect. And then you roll it out and you see the problems with it that you couldn't have anticipated. And what I think is cool about your mindset on this is that you're focusing on it within a team. And what's cool too is if you're doing great work, which I'm sure you are, then the way you're working and the way your team's getting things done, also kind of sparks this curiosity, right? You just say, this is the way we work. And it can be kind of contagious and organic, the way that kind of mode of thinking and operating spreads out. We've seen that. We have a much, much smaller team than 1.5 million. But we've seen that occasionally where it's like, okay, we know we want to try this new way of working, but we don't have, the time or whatever to roll it out across everybody. Let's start with this small group of people and see how it goes, see what we learn from it, and then be in a stronger position to roll it out on a wider basis. So I think that's cool. I hope that you are able to, like, keep that fire and inspiration even on a smaller scale.
Yeah. I think one of the nice things too about, making a more inclusive workplace and something that, people are maybe not like super excited to go to work every day, but they don't feel like they're, completely emotionally drained at the end of the day, is like that just makes the work better. The work's better, you feel better, and they just like keep feeding back into each other. And I think, to what you're saying, folks on the outside are like, oh, these people are making really great work and they're not miserable every day. How can I get that? How can I get a piece of that and insert it into, our workflow and our daily processes? So yeah, I think it's just a better is better type of situation.
Yeah, then you can be like, hey, we found out this crazy thing that if you don't alienate, a third of the team members, then the work is better and they're able to actually participate in it. It's this just crazy, mind-blowing concept. So I know that you're, honing in on more specifically on lettering, but you're still, playing a key part of the overall brand. And I know you have some deeper thoughts about, how culture plays into brand, which I'd love to dig into. But at a high level, is there a brand philosophy that really drives you?
I think really the philosophy, I mean, and this is not really a brand philosophy, but just like human philosophy. I think, and I've kind of touched on this, just like we have to be completely unencumbered when we come in to work. Like we don't need to be burdened by all these, buzzwords and work speak, and we don't need to, have our top button up every single day when we walk in. Like all of these like small little cultural pieces that have built up over time that work really well for a very specific, demographic are like kind of useless. We should be able to come to work comfortably. We should be able to speak the way that, we've grown and learned to speak, coming from different cultures and different, locations. I feel like there are just a lot of barriers every day. And so I think if we're able to kind of take away some of these like superficial barriers that folks encounter at their job every day, they can come and be and deliver the best of themselves. And I think that just makes for a more authentic brand. And it just happens to be that we're in a time and space in, I think, America in general, that they're thirsty for authenticity and they want brands to be honest and transparent and bring what they're going to bring, but bring it truthfully. So I think that starts from, can your employees come to work and deliver truth and honesty and be themselves? So not, maybe not on a technical level. That's, I don't know. I lost my thought, but yeah.
We can edit the last part. I think what you're saying is really good there. Let me have a good follow-up that we can edit in here. Okay. So how does that experience or when you think about, actually, let me start over. Okay. When you think about that desire to, maybe move away from incomprehensible acronyms and jargon and so forth, how does that, I guess, principle of clear communication or, come as you are, how do you feel like that mindset affects an overall, or when that actually plays out, how do you feel like that affects the overall employer brand or internal culture when you see that working well?
I mean, I think it just really just strips away all of like any barrier to entry for anybody. It opens the door for more diverse talent when that's working well. you're able to recruit better folks from all walks of life. And if you're all able to come in and speak kind of this universal language of authenticity and truth, I think people just feel more comfortable in themselves and are able to truly deliver their best work. Just because you're emotionally stable and well, and you're not stressed about, do I look perfect walking into a meeting room, or, am I saying the right, smart words that are going to win the day or whatever. Just kind of stripping those pieces away and allowing people to just feel completely relaxed and comfortable to bring their best work. I don't know if that answers the question, but I think that's kind of
that's good. That's
where my
good
head's
stuff.
at.
And how would you describe the overall employer / talent brand at AWS currently?
I think that at this point, it is very, I think everybody is kind of empowered to be a leader, which I know everybody says, in some form or fashion at a company, but I think folks are truly empowered to kind of bring whatever it is their strength, and kind of really plant and be firm. And if that means you're disagreeing with, XYZ or this specific person, I think that like disagreement is welcomed, as long as you're able to, back it up and, provide, not even just data. Data is helpful, but as long as you're able to back it up and rationalize it in a way that makes sense for the brand and the business, the customer, I think that disagreement is received well. And that doesn't always make for a perfect work experience. You might have people running in 10 different directions at times, and you have to recalibrate occasionally, but I think it just opens the door for people to kind of push beyond what is expected.
Yeah, and find what you're actually excited about and passionate about, and then try to fit that
and
in.
Because the company is so big, if the team you're on isn't what you're passionate about, there's about 100 other teams you can find that might suit your skill set or your passions.
It's really, really cool what you're digging into there with just being able to sit with that tension, because I think that the desire to be agreeable or at peace with everyone you work with sometimes can sometimes sow some seeds of resentment too, right? Where you're talking about that universal language of authenticity and truth. I think that sometimes can be hard, because what comes with it is like those disagreements or tension, or going against what it's like when there's you're starting to see consensus around a certain direction. Like, okay, if I say what I think and it's not what their train is moving on, like I'm a stick in the spokes on what they're trying to do. And so sometimes it is easier to just go like, oh, I'll just, shut up and let them do their thing or whatever. And then it's like you kick yourself later, like, oh, I should have at least just verbalized what I was feeling on that. So I appreciate what you're saying. It's cool to hear that, you and your team are comfortable with those disagreements. And like you said, being able to back it up logically, so it's not just like an emotional knee-jerk disagreement. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So Cymone, in hearing you talk now, and also in a previous conversation that we had, it was really clear. It's become really clear to me that you really care about, like, not just the work itself, the creative work, but how it gets done and how people experience work together. A lot of our listeners are creatives, and some of which, they're kind of earlier in their career journey. And so feel free to answer this question however you like, given that you aren't just singularly focused on the creative work. And my question ultimately is, for people just starting out, for people that are looking to have a career in creative, to maybe one day ascend to a senior art director position, what are the skills that you really think that people need to focus on honing the most to not just get really good at the craft, but to become like really gifted talented creatives that can collaborate as well with other people.
Yeah, I think like the thing I picked up in school, like I went to a small little school and the design program was so awful, which I say all the time. But I think the thing that I learned that I was able to pick up is that you should be able to do your best work with exactly what is at your fingertips. Like, it's that learning to be scrappy and learning to be open to, some things doing what they're not intended to do, as long as it gets, you to your final product. And I think that has been probably like the single one thing that I took from my college experience that has been super helpful in my career is, there are other creatives that I've worked with who have, these amazing backgrounds and all of this great education, but if they're not willing to, make the most of tiny budgets or ambiguous, constraints and feedback, then, it's like you can only do so much. And as long as you're able to be open to making great work with what you have, you'll go so far. And I that goes with like, education or experience. You may not be the most experienced person in the room, but as long as you're, willing to listen and to start, picking up, what you can from those experiences, you'll, catch up very quickly to your peers and leaders and all that stuff. So I think that to me, I feel like those are the skills. Like you can be a master in Photoshop, or you can be a really great salesperson who can sell your idea, but as long as you're able to be open to learning and be open to using what you have at your disposal, you'll go pretty far.
Yeah, I love that answer. Would you say that scrappiness or that focus on being scrappy has led to your success with your studio as well? Or do you feel like you're kind of a different person with a different skill set or a different mentality when it comes to your own work?
I don't think it's different with my own work. I think I try to, just be open to that experience and that process. I think honestly, a lot of like my best work is because I didn't have, what I needed in the moment and just made it work, or, was open to like a little happy accident and discovering a new way to do something. I feel like there are definitely like years where I tried to make everything perfect and do it exactly as everybody did it. And I just don't think the work resonated with folks when I was doing that. It was when I was, doing, some of this garbagey looking lettering and kind of messing up techniques and playing with forms and really just using cheap, materials. That's when, folks were like, oh, that's a little different. I like what you're doing there. So I've learned to just like, let that stuff happen and just, let it inform my work. And if it goes in a weird direction, cool. If I go too far, that's fine. But I know that I went there and I tried it and can kind of scale it back to what makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. What are some of the things that you can talk about that you're excited about, whether it's with your own studio or with Amazon, that are coming down the pipeline?
Oh, I feel like in my own studio, this year has been kind of weird just because the economy is in such a foggy spot. Folks are kind of holding on to budgets, but I think the work that I have, been able to knock out has been stuff that I have really enjoyed, and that's always, the sweetest spot. I just wrapped up some out of home work for New York City tourism for the 50th anniversary of hip hop, which is like, I love hip hop, I love letters and, putting those things together to, shine a light on some of my favorites has been, really cool. And of course, every designer wants to see their work hanging up somewhere in New York City. So I'm excited for, that stuff to start popping up. On the AWS side, I'm just excited that we're, starting to document our processes, and we're coming up with these design principles and this design system that'll be a source of truth. That'll be the right foundation to build the rest of the brand up from. I think we haven't had that before, and then it's just putting band-aids on things, every other month. And so to have this, solid foundation which to build on. I think it's just going to make the work better. It's going to be clearer for our customers. It's just going to be easier to work with overall. So those are kind of like on the two sides. Those are the things I'm excited about this year.
Yeah, that's cool. So our podcast is called Best Story Wins, and we named it Best Story Wins because we believe that at the end of the day, your story as a brand is really how you differentiate and then compete. And then ultimately, if you're successful, you win the hearts and minds of the people you're trying to reach, right? So in your opinion, what are the keys to telling a great brand story?
I mean, I hate to just sound like a broken record, but just, that authenticity, having a genuine spirit, being honest and transparent with the story you're trying to tell, and not trying to tell, someone else's version of your own story. Like tell it the way that is true to you, and people will believe it. People will, buy into it. And at the end of the day, you'll win, the hearts and minds of your customers, of the folks that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I had a feeling you might answer with authenticity. And I think that, that's an answer that we get from time to time. And it's because, cliched things, if you will, like there's so much truth in them. And I think you're dead on. And I think that kind of the converse of that, when people are telling stories or they don't resonate, they're contrived. They don't feel genuine. They feel kind of out there, off base. Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
So yeah, same page. What do we got? Some type of alert.
Well,
are you guys all good? Safe space?
I mean, it might have been a tsunami warning, or it may have been an amber alert, something. I'll look into it. Hope everyone's okay. But over to you, Jay.
That was like an alert. Time to go to the next question. I'm curious. You mentioned this, the authenticity and truth. How do you feel like your team is working right now to effectively tell that genuine story?
I think because our company has kind of been around for a minute, we've gone through, waves of talking to the right people and not talking to the right people, just because our audience has expanded. Like when AWS first started, we were talking to the builder, the person like in the weeds, making the thing. Like that's who we were talking to. And then, we got bigger, started creating more products, more services that, help and affect all these different, industries and these, different ways of working. And we've, done that really well. But I think that we, in a way, have forgotten that the same, that builder is still the person making those things happen. And so, making sure that we come back to talking to them, making sure the builder feels excited to use our services, our products to build what they're building. I think it does that ripple effect where if the builder's happy, then their boss is happy, leadership at companies are happy. And then they start, making those decisions to continue to use our services and products in other spots in their company outside of, maybe what a builder is using specifically. So I think just kind of making sure that we're back to speaking to the actual end user. I think that's kind of what will be working well once we kind of are able to do that effectively.
Yeah, it can be really powerful to look to the origins and like DNA of the brand and see what's still ringing true there. So on the flip side of this, we were talking previously about your discussion on the Creative Questions podcast about the Live, Laugh, Learn gun tattoo that the host Cameron there had been so lucky to be hired to create. What's using that as like the metaphor for really bad ideas and life choices? What do you see like as examples of people just doing this really poorly? You don't have to like call out a brand, but when you see a brand, just Josh was talking about, sometimes it comes off really contrived, or what are some mistakes you see brands making on this front?
I mean, I think a lot of folks are doing kind of what we were starting to fall into, and it's just making, not talking to the right person. You talk to like companies who are talking to, only leadership at a company. Like that's only going to get you so far if it doesn't actually work for the people who need it, who you need it to work for. I feel like that's, oh man, I lost my train of thought.
This is good.
What was what was the question?
Like
again?
you were saying, focusing on the wrong person, like when people start talking to the question was, making mistakes, or what mistakes you see brands making.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think you're teeing off on it. The talking to the wrong person is a big one, right?
Yeah, talking to the wrong person, and then just again trying to like cherry pick off of what everybody else is doing. Like, yeah, I took what this brand did, and I took what this brand did, and I took what this brand did, and I put it together. And why isn't it working? It's, well, you have to do what you do well and tell that story well. You can be inspired by certain things that other brands are doing, but if you just kind of like building and taking pieces from other brands, that's not your brand anymore. That's not that honest story. And people always know when you've done that. Like, I think a lot of brands treat customers like they're stupid, and I think that they see what's going on. They understand, they're experts at this product, at this thing, and they know when you're lying, they know when you've stolen, or when you've copied. So it's just like, just do what you do well, tell it right, be transparent about it, and folks will buy into it.
Yeah, it's like the condescending explainer video needs to be put to the side. Like, you think the world's like this, but you're wrong. It's actually like this. It's like, thanks, you know me so well. I really appreciate what you're saying there. As you're saying that, it made me think too that sometimes that mistake, especially when you're pioneering in a space, and we've worked with a lot of tech brands, and I think occasionally I've gotten caught up in this myself, where it's like that audience you have in mind is almost like more of the industry peer, or even the people you're aspiring to be as big as or something, and like wondering like what they'll think, or what that can be such a trap, it's like, I know it's important to differentiate, but sometimes like that, it's like that kind of haunting critic voice you can hear of like, oh, what are they gonna think we actually know what we're talking about, or poke holes in this and that. I don't know, for me that can lead to like perfectionism big time, where it's like, okay, I have to like know literally everything about this before I put something out in the wild, and it can really slow you down. And then you see, like, when you actually start putting stuff out there, that sometimes even something that feels really basic, once you develop expertise on something, not in that condescending voice, but like it's like a straightforward, simple piece, and then people are reaching out saying like, oh, I loved that was so valuable. It's like, oh, it would have been good to just to like not overthink it and just start getting it out there, just thinking about providing value, like you were touching on, to the people you're actually for. Like those market choices can be really hard to say, like, okay, we're going to be for this, even in just this segment of communication, like we're just going to be for that end user and not every single person in their entire organization right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially as designers and creatives, like that's so hard. Like everything from a design perspective, I want to make this cool thing that all my design friends are going to love, but is that the thing that makes sense for the person using whatever it is you're designing for? So,
right.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that the economy, I think the way you framed it was a little foggy right now. we can relate. I think every brand right now is either pulling budgets or scrutinizing budgets. So besides work going on pause and shrinking budgets, what are some newer big trends that you're seeing kind of materialize in the marketplace and the creative ether, et cetera?
Oh, that's tricky. I don't know. I feel like I am maybe not like the best at keeping up with kind of what companies are doing. I'm trying to just like stay, focused on the growth of myself as an individual and just kind of making sure, those culture shifts take place. And I hope that that is the thing that, companies start to trend towards, is making sure that, their working environments become comfortable and sustainable. So yeah, that's a tough one for me.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's really, it does feel like a moment. Not to say that I see myself or ICS as like the ultimate tastemakers, but it does kind of seem like a moment in time where I don't know if everyone's in a holding pattern creatively, but you do kind of sense that people are moving a little bit more slowly than they were in
Yeah,
previous years.
yeah, definitely. And I think, I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of maybe power that workers are getting and have, whether you see that as a good thing or a bad thing. But I think that just paying attention to that and making sure that people are getting what they're asking for, that makes sense for your company, even if it means stretching and sacrificing. I feel like, I don't know, that's just something to kind of keep our eyes open to, um, as the economy shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that.
On on that note, everybody, at the grocery store and wherever you go seems to say something about generative AI or AI in general. I'm really curious to hear, especially as an original artist and illustrator, how are you feeling about this wacky world of AI right now?
It's so interesting to like see this type, not this type of technology, but to see any sort of technology move as quickly as it has. So it feels kind of difficult to like have a very um I don't know, safe and positive view, because I just feel like it could get so much weirder, and it could be really great and transformative, but it can also get really dark and scary pretty quickly. So I think just like it it's just very interesting to see it kind of unfold, like it's a different thing every day. Like I don't even feel like this was a top topic 6 months ago, but now it's like everything that everybody is thinking about and trying to kind of get ahead of. But I think one thing that I have to like remind myself is that we all are kind of this tool that is taking inspiration from 100 different places to make the thing that we make. And I think AI is more or less doing that. It's taking inspiration from, different sources and putting this thing together. And I think that's going to open up a lot of doors for a lot of folks if used kind of in the appropriate's maybe not the right way, but right word, but like if they're able to use this technology ethically, I think it can just be really powerful and open a lot of doors for folks who maybe don't have access to, certain tools. So I think there's a lot of really positive things that can come out of this. There's also just a lot of really scary unknowns that we just don't know about just yet.
Right, right. Yeah, you hope that the responsible use of this ends up winning. On as an individual artist, and even thinking about your own potential use of these tools, like, do you think you could ever geek out on, say, like plugging in your own work and seeing what, training your own model and seeing if it just cloning yourself so it does lettering projects while you watch TV.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't really like tried it out a lot, but I think it would be really interesting to just be like to feed a model a bunch of my stuff and ask it to either like, you know, line up the words in a way that I would never think, or, you know, lay something out in a way that I have, you know, not thought about. I just think it's a great way to kind of like get ideas started, or it could be a great way to get ideas started. And I don't know, like, I feel like there's probably 100 ideas in my brain that I am not able to like synthesize well enough to get it on paper, but to maybe just write out a sentence and let, you know, AI kind of help that along is very intriguing.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about when you're mentioning like feeding your own work into it. It'd be cool if you could do, you know, those like cartoons where, or I think it's like in like heist movies where they like steal the briefcase of money, but it's like whatever, like exploding ink inside the briefcase. If you could somehow embed your images, so if you're like training a private model, but they're like secretly like putting it into the AI soup, whenever it's like pulling from your image, it just does the exploding ink thing.
Yeah, I'd probably just like put 42069 secretly and in the texture or something so that I know it's mine.
And then the output would like show just random things that kind of look like numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I think what you were just saying there with the ideas that are in your head that are like sometimes that experience of just getting the ball rolling can be a blocker, you know? And I think that is one incredibly useful like use case or application I've seen is just like, you know, you dump in your thoughts and say like, help me structure this or dig deeper into this. And then sometimes even those ideas or the copy, you know, especially with ChatGPT, there's such a like, I don't know, kind of formulaic way of structuring a lot of the writing that where it's like you almost have, you know, you kind of, if you want it to really sound like a human wrote it or that you wrote it personally, you do need to go in and bring your own, you know, style to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is useful, I think, for that. Like, I kind of like that. You mentioned like some positive potential outcomes. I do like imagining a scenario where humans and machines can work well together. might as well, yeah. Hopefully.
I mean, yeah, if that's our impending future, we might as well make it work as well as it can.
Yeah.
Man, the AI world is, I don't think anybody was ready for it.
Well, at least we have aliens now too, so that's helps.
True.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like I don't know about you guys, but like every day I feel like there's a fork in the road, and like one route is like continue to put my head in the sand and pretend like everything's gonna go back to like 2019 and AI is 30 years out still, and the other is like learn AI and like figure out how to like leverage it. And I haven't gone down a path yet. I just like keep like poking my head down each path and stuck at the fork. But yeah, it's an interesting moment. Maybe that is kind of the answer to the previous question too, right? Like, what's the trend? The trend is like actually figuring this out and not just like tactically learning the tools, but like deciding for oneself, like what role is this going to play in your life? Like, what are you wanting this to play in your life? Because I think that there's going to be multiple paths for creatives. Like, you can go down the path of like being like the AI powered creative that's, you know, known for that, or you can maybe be more of a crafts person. And I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm naive in thinking that, but I think that there will be kind of roles for people that have those varying perspectives. I don't know if any of that resonates.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hope that's how it rolls. Like, there is, you know, people who are still doing what we do today, and there are people who are using AI, and there's a mix of both. I kind of foresee a future where those two paths are probably going to diverge pretty quickly, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a follow-up episode in a couple years to see how things played out.
Yeah, I'll send you to my AI link who will conduct the interview for me.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, cool. Cymone, it's been so great having you on. We're almost at time here. Any final tips or thoughts you'd like to share for our listeners or with our listeners?
Ooh, I guess the tip is just remember that you can be scrappy, love the people around you, give people space to be who they are, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Nice.
love that.
Well said.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about you and follow you for your journey, whether it's your work at Amazon or Cymone and Moose or just you personally, what are some of the best places for them to find you online?
Well, my handle almost everywhere is at Cymone and Moose. So Instagram it tends to be the thing I keep up with most, gathering inspiration for new ideas on Pinterest. And then, of course, my website, cymoneandmoose.com, if you want to see some super outdated portfolio work.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Again, it's been a pleasure.
I will say also in the Cymone and Moose shop, and I just bought one, there's a metal ranch shirt. So if you're a lover of ranch.
It's important. It's
and
important.
Heavy metal, there's a shirt for you.
Hey, you only bought one? Wow. All right. Thanks again, Cymone.
Thank
you. Appreciate it.
Column 5's Best Story Wins is for marketing and branding professionals looking to unlock their growth potential. Each episode features a conversation with industry leaders about how they win the hearts and minds of their customers and build world-class brands. You'll learn about their success stories and their failures, as well as ideas for how to take your own marketing efforts to the next level. Welcome to Best Story Wins.